All right. Okay, welcome to today's live. Let's talk about getting back on track after the holidays. Now, I have spoken to the number of people who have shared with me how difficult they're finding it getting back on track, getting back into the swing of things, back up to speed. We've talked about how short the summer has felt. I think that's because here in the UK it took a very long time to get started, and just as we were getting used to it, it now feels like it's coming to an end. And this can be really hard because, of course, what happens is like holidays don't last forever. The summer doesn't last forever. You need to get back to work. We need to get back on track. I really wanted to do this topic for you as my first live in quite a while, but also I've covered it on the podcast this week, the Legal Imposters podcast, and make sure you check that out and subscribe. I wanted to focus on it this week, not least because I had that same struggle too when I got back a couple of weeks ago. I find it a little bit hard. I'm not going to lie, getting back up to speed. And so what I have done and what's been front of mind is like how I dealt with that. So I was watching my brain, like the thoughts I was having while that was going on and while I was procrastinating when I should have been getting to work, and then resistance I was feeling to so much of my to-do list. And then, of course, finding my way through, figuring out how to get back on form, back on track, back in the zone, if you like, of working at my highest level. Like I actually found the strategies I used really effective, and I want to share them with you because I know a lot of you are really struggling with this. Now, I'm just going to make an adjustment here so I can see if there are any comments coming in. I can see them coming in. And as I'm going through, I want you to share with me if you have had any negative thoughts about coming back from holiday, which is totally normal. We all do. If there's anything you're struggling with, any questions you've got, please treat this as a conversation. Even if you're watching this as part of a replay, share your comments and your questions. I'll be really happy to answer. That's the whole point of me being on here live. Okay, so thinking about where you are now, it could be you're just back from a fabulous holiday. It could be you're not back from a fabulous holiday, but you have had a break, perhaps been at home. Things have been a little bit slower, a little bit quieter for you. Either way, it feels like there's a shift required in order for you to kick into gear for what's coming. For most people, and certainly for me, this is actually the busiest time of the year, like in the run up from September, October, the run up to Christmas. It just goes very quickly. It's always a very busy time. So what we want is to hit the ground running. What we want is to get ourselves back on track as quickly and as smoothly as possible so that we are ready for whatever comes up, ready for the challenges. Okay. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about doing today. By the way, I had such a fabulous holiday. Thank you. I was in Italy for a week and then in Spain and Mallorca for a week. 1 week was with kids and the whole family. And the next week was just me and Paul. We had a absolutely glorious time. Such a glorious time that when I came back, I could hardly remember. It's like, what do I do again? What is my day job? Who am I? One of those holidays that you have and you're like, gosh, where did I even leave off? And that was the kind of more lighthearted or humorous side of it. But on a more serious level, I had some real imposter syndrome feelings coming back. My brain just offered me so many thoughts like, you can't remember what you're doing, all those, you can't write emails anymore, you don't know how to post, and don't go live on LinkedIn because you can't remember how to do it. Have you noticed how I'm going live on LinkedIn now? Yeah, that's because I had to coach myself through it. I had to coach myself through the imposter syndrome that was coming up, telling me, like, what was I doing? Like, coming back into this business, which on some days feels bigger than me, I'm not going to lie. Like, do I even know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? All of the questions coming up, making me doubt myself. Now, as if this has happened to you, as I'm sure it has at certain moments, whether on the back of a holiday or not, just that feeling of, but I don't know anything, your mind going blank and your brain telling you that you don't know, and just the self-sabotage, that's what I call it. If you have had experience of that, then you are in exactly the right place too. So what you're going to get in this short live is just me sharing 3 strategies, I guess, or that I recommend that you try either now, right now, if you're experiencing this reluctance to get back into things. Or I want you to be able to come back to this post if it happens at a future time. I want you to be able to save, like maybe save the post, come back to it. If it comes up at the end of a project, for example, you know, when you've been in the thick of a transaction and then you've used all of this energy and then it's over and you're like really depleted and you've got no energy and you can't face getting into the next thing. This can also, what I'm going to share with you today, can also be really useful. All right, so let's get stuck into these three things. And I've kind of cheekily said three, but in the third recommendation I have is actually a list of certain suggestions. It will all make sense when I get into it. Okay, so the first recommendation I have for you, actually, this is a must-have, absolutely essential, is that you show yourself some compassion when you come back to work. So whether it's all the thoughts that your brain might be offering you about not being in a good place, or not being good at your job, or doubting yourself, or you can't remember anything, you can't remember how to do it, or maybe you remember having done something and you didn't do it as well as you had hoped or thought you had done it or would like to have done it. Whatever it is that your brain may be offering you right now by way of versions of self-sabotage, in other words, thoughts that make you feel terrible about yourself, thoughts that make you doubt yourself, whatever's coming up, I want you to just feel a bit of compassion around what's going on. It's just your brain in a little bit of a panic, adjusting to the fact that you are stepping back up and stepping back into a high performing role, a high performing industry. And I'm thinking about you, my Black lawyers, right? So like, allow that and know that that is okay and perfectly normal to have those thoughts at a time when you're transitioning between, I want to say, energetic states, like the energetic state of being really relaxed and chill and with loved ones and easygoing, to the energetic state of there being higher stakes and there's being work to do and deadlines to meet and expectations, right? So those two energetic states, the transition between the two is going to be a little bit messy. The more compassion you can have for yourself, or any like emotion, negative emotion you feel about that, and thoughts, negative thoughts you have about that, the better, the more easily they will leave your body, leave your brain, and you will be free then to step up to that higher level, that higher energetic state. How do you do that? How do you have compassion for yourself? That brings me to my recommendation number 2, which is to do a thought download. Now, thought downloads is one of the things I teach you in Be the First Progression for Black Lawyers. And it's so simple. It is literally you getting the thoughts that are in your brain out of your brain and down onto a piece of paper or your tablet, whatever is your preference. You are downloading your thoughts. It's so simple. It is so effective, so powerful. And by the way, I'm recommending it in this context of you getting back on track, getting back to work after holidays, but you can use this at any time of the day. It's why it's one of the things that the tools and the habits I encourage you to develop and practice in Be the First, because of how effective it is. A thought download, we are literally putting our thoughts on paper. And the reason why it works so well is it because it creates a degree of detachment from those thoughts. When we put them on paper, what we can do then, or on a tablet, showing how old-fashioned I am, I still use pen and paper, you can take a look at them. And in taking a look at them, you actually see them with a lot more objectivity. So you're no longer, or you're certainly less in your thoughts, and instead you're more able to observe your thoughts. And that does one of two things. One, it acknowledges the thoughts that you're having, acknowledges, if you also write down how you're feeling, it acknowledges those. Very important. That is actually all your brain and your body wants, is to have the fears that's often what lies behind the negative thoughts, to have that actually recognized, for that version of you that wants to sort of steam ahead back into performing at the highest level, wants that version of you to say, okay, I get it. It's also a little bit scary. And I'm also a little bit out of practice. Just the acknowledgement, the recognition is so valuable in helping us to process negative thoughts and emotions. And then the second thing that it does, writing down your thoughts, doing this thought download, I love this, is with that slight detachment, that degree of objectivity, what it means is you actually manage to see how completely absurd some of those thoughts are. So, for example, I was having thoughts like, yeah, you don't know how to coach anymore. You can't even remember how to coach. Are you even a good coach? And when I wrote down that on paper as part of my thought download, I actually looked at it and laughed out loud, like literally thinking of all of the hundreds of people that I have coached, the thousands of hours of coaching I've given, the results that I've created for my coaching clients and the transformations they have had. Like, clearly, I know that is not the case. Clearly, I know about my capabilities. I'm a great coach. So it was just like what I needed to get the negative thought that my imposter syndrome had offered me after my time off down on paper, take a look at it and really see how absurd it was. So that's the other piece of valuable aspect you're going to get from doing a thought download. Okay, so you've got those first two things. Number 3 is really to just the way I'll describe this, it's a bit messy, but it sums it up. It's just like, I just suggest you throw different like solutions and tactics at it. I need to think of a more concise way of labeling my suggestion number 3. But what I'm saying is I'm going to offer you some examples of the things that I have done, which I found really effective. And you can just pick and choose, like treat it as a pick and mix, do all of them, do one of them, and just see which is working for you, which is useful. What I love about this is that by practicing and doing those 3 steps, and in particular step number 3 in figuring out which of the tips and tactics that Caroline's teaching me have I found really useful and I want to repeat next time. In doing this work, it means the next time you know exactly what to do, exactly which tactic to come to in order to get you to that high performing state more quickly. All right, so I'm going to go through them one by one. Number 1, one of my favorites. When you are struggling to get back into something, when you're procrastinating, delaying, you've got all the mind drama, what I want to recommend is that you tidy up. Okay? Look at your workspace and tidy it up, clean it up. If you are watching the video of this, you'll see my backdrop is really nice and clean, it's nice and tidy, and I keep it that way on purpose. What you can't see is the desk that my desktop is sitting on, which often gets extremely cluttered. It's actually not too bad right now. But at the end of a very busy day and a long day, stuff piles up. I have this weird thing where I don't like drinking tea out of the same cup twice. And because I work from home, I have a whole cupboard of cups that I can work my way through. So what happens through the day is I get cups, I get glasses, water, I get all the paraphernalia and the debris from my work just piles up. Now that's fine after one day. But if that has been happening over the course of a few weeks, if my children have been home, and this may be the case for you, when your kids are home, there's so much more clutter around. So I recommend you tidying up your workspace, because a cluttered workspace is a cluttered brain. A clear and a clean workspace is a much clearer and cleaner brain. And in order to get back on track, remember what you do, remember how well you do it, right? And get back to that state of your normal level of performance. You want a clean and uncluttered brain. So tidy up. It never ceases to amaze me how much better I feel when I've cleared my desk, tidied up my in trays. It doesn't mean you have to work through and do everything that's in your in tray if you have a physical one, but just having things in order is very calming. Okay, that's tip number 1. Number 2, know your high value cycle indicators. Let me explain what I mean by that. The high value cycle, this is how I've learned about this through my coach a number of years ago. She calls it a high value cycle. I call it your high performance state, right? It's whatever it is when you're in the flow, you're in the zone, you're performing at your highest level, and you're churning out stuff, you're getting things done, you're being productive, you're being proactive. That state, I want you to recall the last time you felt like that, the last time you were performing at that level, okay? And if your brain's first response is to say, oh, well, I never performed at that level, and I can't remember. Like, really take the time and challenge yourself to find the memory of that, because I absolutely guarantee you that you would not be where you are if that wasn't the case. So think back as long and as far back as you need to recall a moment when you have felt in flow, when you were firing on all cylinders. And then ask yourself, what was I doing in that moment? Like, what were the things that were the habits, or what were the structures that were in place at that time that actually supported me to do that? Let me give you an example. When I am in my highest level of performance, my high value cycle, in other words, I'm producing great value at the highest level, here's what's going on for me. I'm getting up extremely early in the morning. I set my alarm for 5:25 a.m. I know it's early, and it's also very precise. 5:20 doesn't work quite as well, and 5:30 doesn't work quite as well either. This is my magic time. Now, I get up early. It's something that I will teach you when you join Be the First, or you mid to senior level Black lawyers. You don't have to get up at 5:25 in the morning, but what I do teach you is morning mastery, how to take ownership of your day by like mastering your mornings. It is such a great habit to develop, and who you become in becoming the person who gets up earlier than they need to, so that you are well prepared for the day, not to do extra work, by the way, but so that you are set up for success in the day. This is gold. It's one of the things I teach in Be the First. So for me, I have been operating from morning mastery for years. I know, for example, when I am traveling, when I'm on holiday, I still get up earlier than I need to, much to Paul's frustration sometimes. However, I'm much more lax about the time I get up, and I'm much more lax about what I do when I get up. I know that when I'm firing on all cylinders, I'm getting up at 5:25. I'm having at least an hour, sometimes more, of journaling. I am reading. I'm maybe doing some meditating. I'm also doing some exercise. Like, I include those 3 to 4 things in my morning routine. That's my morning mastery every single day. And this is, I'm not saying there are days when I don't do that. What I'm saying is, when I'm performing well, when things are going well, when I feel in flow, that's how I start my day. It's a great example of an indicator that I'm in a high value cycle, that I'm performing at my highest, that I'm ready for anything, right? Firing on all cylinders. Okay, another example that I want to share with you is I'm also planning my week. I plan my week and adapt my day. Another thing I teach you when you join Be the First, I teach you time control. A lot of you lawyers, in fact, most of you lawyers that I meet, you have this belief that you have no control over your time, and you feel so out of control so much of the time. I teach you time control. I teach you to create time. I teach you to bend time. I teach you to be in control of your time. It's just a completely different relationship with time that I help you to develop, which helps to make work so much less, takes away the overwhelm from your work, and also puts you in just a much better position, feeling more in control and being more in control. So for me, and the key part of time control is planning the week. So when I plan the week, my week is completely different versus when I'm not planning my week. Likewise, when I then go into the day, I adapt the day. So the skill I teach you is plan the week, adapt the day. You may have seen one of my previous posts on this. So when I'm doing that, I can handle anything that comes, whatever it's, whether it's unexpected, whether it was expected, but it was slightly harder than planned, whatever it is. I am so much in a much better place and state to manage it, versus if I wing it, which I know a lot of you do. I have some clients who are working on this right now. If I wing it, if I like stumble into the week, if I fall into the day and everything just happens to me, it's a completely different experience. This is not the optimal state for feeling in the zone, my friend. This is not a high performance state. Okay, landing at your desk, no idea what's coming up until you open your emails. All right, that's not something that I would recommend. So for me, that's as important as it is for you too. Those are a couple of examples of like indicators. And by indicators, I just mean how I know that I'm performing well. And because I know what those are, I can use those indicators to get myself back into a high performing state. So all I need to do is set my alarm. I don't need to get all caught up in what my actual work is. I just know that at the end of the day, I set my alarm to get up at my ideal time of 5:25 for do my morning mastery, and I know I'm getting back on track. Yeah. All I need to do is plan my week and adapt my day, and I know I'm getting back on track. Okay, so whatever those indicators are for you, maybe you're going to bed at a certain time, maybe your diet is a certain way, maybe you're working out a certain number of times a week, maybe you're always having a certain amount of time of connection with your family or your friends, like at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, whatever it is, if that is what puts you in a state where you are, I think what's actually happening is you are sufficient and therefore you're able to give. Like you're able to, no, not give, you're able to like receive in the sense of like whatever is coming at you from the outside world, you are able to receive and hold it. That's a better way of describing it, because you've taken care of yourself and you have those structures in place that support you to do your work, support you in your life as well. Okay, that's what exercise does for me. That's what morning mastery does for me. It gives me the opportunity, it supports me to perform in my life and in my work. Hello, hi Joyce, great to see you too. Okay, so that is just the second, that sums up the second suggestion that I've made to you about, about knowing those indicators, how you know you're in a high performance state, and then you lead with those. All right, what else do I have for you? The next one is reconnect to your progression goal. Reconnect to your progression goal. You do have a progression goal, don't you? You have to have a progression goal. It's so important. It doesn't have to be the goal to be promoted in the next 6 months, although it might be. And if you're a Black lawyer and you're mid to senior level, then I can help you with that. Like, don't hesitate if you want to book a consult with me. Let's talk about how I can help you. But either way, even without the goal to be promoted to the next level, there are so many other ways that you can be progressing within this industry. You could be progressing to a place where 6 months from now, you feel so much more confident, where 6 months from now, you are much more in control of your time and you have more balance and you're doing your day job with more ease. You could have the progression goal of becoming a subject matter expert in what you do. There's no limit to the goals that you could set yourself. Here's why this is important. Setting the goal and knowing and having something to work towards is just going to create so much more energy and motivation and interest for you in your day-to-day job versus going from day to day, feeling like you're being knocked like one way and then another by whatever comes in and whatever's happening around you, right? Feel like you're just there and then just reacting to all of that. You feel a sense of being in control, that you are moving forward. And that is motivating. And you know what else is motivating and really fulfilling? Knowing and being able to measure your progress towards your goal. Knowing you are progressing, having that belief and feeling that you are either getting better at something or going further at something is the number one. I've been reading so much about this at the moment. The number one thing that is the most significant contributor, that's what I want to say, to the feeling of being fulfilled, being successful, being the feeling of being happy in the workplace. Yeah. So the only way you can measure progress is if you actually have a progression goal. Okay. So what I want to recommend, if you're coming out in a bit of a post-holiday funk, or you're just easing back into work and you want to get yourself into performing at a high level again, reconnect with your progression goal. And if you don't have one, and you're a mid to senior level lawyer, then reach out to me. I will help you make one. Okay. I've got 2 left. I've got 3 left. The next one is to zoom in. This worked really well for me. I had a really big project. I am so excited to tell you about this. I'm not going to get into it in this live because I'm going to dedicate separate posts and lives to this, talk about it, because it's so big and it is going to change, completely transform how you feel about yourself as a Black lawyer in this industry, how you perform in this industry, and it is going to serve you. It's relevant for you from the very beginning of your legal career, every single stage, all the way to the top. I cannot wait to share this with you. It's a program I've created, and this is what I came back from holiday into, like the creation of this program. And it was daunting, just like any big transaction or big project is daunting. Like writing Be the First was really daunting. That's my book. If you haven't seen that, then there are details in my bio. Really daunting. And so the way I tackled that, having been in this like post-holiday resistance, let's call it, I want to be back on holiday. I want to be back on the beach in Mallorca. How I tackled it was I stopped being like just looking in this slightly like frozen state, deer in headlights state at the big picture. And I just nailed down, I zoomed in on the detail. Sometimes it's the detail that overwhelms us. But in this case, when it comes to actioning, getting going on a project, what is most useful is if you can find that first step. You just find the one first step and you do that. And then you find the next step and then you do that. And literally, I have been able to create such enormous, complete enormous projects, and also take on some massive goals following that approach. Just putting one foot in step of the other. It takes away the overwhelm. It calms you down and puts you in a place where you can properly start actively thinking and performing, as opposed to being frozen. Okay, the next one, and this is number 5, is intentional thinking. Choose thoughts that make you feel good. Choose thoughts that serve you. Did you know you get to choose how to think? So all of the thoughts that your brain is offering you, like instinctively by default, negative thoughts, thoughts that make you feel bad, thoughts that make you feel underconfident and not up to the task, okay? All of those thoughts, I want you to see those as automatic thoughts that your brain just it defaults to, okay? However, you can decide to redirect your brain, redirect your thinking to thoughts that make you feel better. Now, I have a whole list of thoughts that I practice and I intentionally think and believe that make me feel more confident, more courageous, more motivated, more resourceful. And in making me feel those really powerful, what's the word, dynamic, I want to say, emotions that really get me wanting to take action, what they do is they completely take me out of the negative state of being stuck and they put me into this high performing state. And that's the state I'm able to then produce from. So choose some intentional thoughts. For example, I love the thought, I know how to do hard things. I say it to myself a lot. I have it on a Post-it. I have a whole thought bank. And when you join Be the First, this is something that you will have for yourself. So I was describing this on the podcast. It was such a great way of describing it, where you join Be the First as a mid to senior level Black lawyer. And one of the things that I give you is a thought bank. And that thought bank is like a bank account, right? And that you have a bank account in the thought bank, and that bank account comes with some free thoughts. And by free, I mean they're thoughts that I choose to think about myself that are so powerful and have helped me to achieve the level of success that I have to date. And you are free to look at and decide, do I like those? Oh, I might try that one. Oh, that one might work for me. So it's just this bank of really empowering, confidence-inducing thoughts. And when you join Be the First, you get access to those, and I help you create new ones. I help you build new ones. And so you get this incredible resource of thoughts, powerful thinking that drives very strong emotions that generate like high level performance, high level activity. And that whole chain of like thoughts and emotions and actions is what you want to activate to get you back into that high level state. So it's what I'm recommending as number 5, find a thought that serves you and that you like. One of my other favorite thoughts is, and this is one that one of my clients relatively recently came up with for herself too, I am capable of anything. Like if you thought that, I want you to imagine if you sat down in front of your next piece of work and that was a thought you had in your brain, And that was how you genuinely felt and what you believed. I want you to imagine how you would approach that piece of work or how you would approach that next meeting you're about to go into. So powerful, very different to, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about this. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Or any version of that. That might not be your version, but anything like that, which is not serving you, makes you feel less confident. And then I actually added this last one. So tip number 6, remember, this is the pick and mix for you to like try on these different tactics, which is dive in at the deep end. And the reason why I added this one, because I thought that's what I'm doing on this live. I haven't done lives consistently for quite a long time, and I'm desperately wanting to and enjoying getting back into doing them and to speaking, like delivering content more live so that I'm here if you want to engage with me. And I realized that this is what I'm doing. I've just dived in at the deep end, put myself live. It's on LinkedIn, it's on YouTube. So if you're listening to this and you want to give me, whether it's now or later on the replay, and you want to give me a high five for diving at the deep end, then I would welcome that. That would be nice. But it's actually been really effective just deciding I'm going to dive in. I'm going to dive in and trust myself. Yeah. And know like that's how I get back into it as well, in the doing. All right. So I'm going to leave you there. And I hope you found this valuable. I hope you found some snippets that you can take and then use. I want to make these lives practical. I want to encourage you to engage with me. I will be coming back regularly each week. I'm not sure what my regular time slot will be or which day. It might change. So make sure you are following me on LinkedIn. Make sure you subscribe if you're seeing this on YouTube. And also, even more importantly, join my mailing list, like get on my newsletter. I will add the link in the comments, in the notes here, so that you can access it. I'll also add the link to the podcast version of this episode, which you might want to listen to. It's a little bit longer, go into a bit more depth, and you might find that really valuable too while you're out walking the dog or on your commute into work. All right, that's it from me. It's been a pleasure. It's so good to be back. I am definitely firing on all cylinders now. I will see you very soon on the podcast, in LinkedIn, in your email newsletter, your email inbox, or live somewhere else very soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye for now.